Today, we're going to crack open the most complex object in the known universe. And the wild part is, it's sitting right between your ears. Okay, so let's start with a little riddle. Tell me this, what has 86 billion processors, runs on just 20 watts of power? Yeah, that's less than your desk lamp. And fits right in the palm of your hands. You guessed it. It's the human brain. I mean, think about it. The most powerful, most efficient computer on the entire planet isn't built from silicon and wires. Nope, it's made of cells. And it's the very thing you're using to process my voice right this second. So, how in the world do we even start to wrap our heads around this thing? Well, here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at the brain as the ultimate supercomputer. Then, we'll break down its hardware and software. After that, we'll dive into the incredible neural network that makes it all work. And finally, we'll tackle the big one. What makes this so much more than just a machine? All right, let's jump right in. Section 1, the ultimate supercomputer. You know, thinking of the brain as a computer, it's more than just a cool metaphor. It's actually a really useful way to make sense of something so incredibly complex, right? It gives us familiar ideas like hardware and software to help us get started. So basically, this analogy is our roadmap for making sense of the brain's complex functions. And just like with any computer, the first thing you got to look at is the hardware. All right, let's talk hardware. If we're saying the brain is a computer, then what are the physical parts? What are the chips, the circuits? What's it all made of? Okay, so every computer you've ever used has a processor, right? A CPU core. Well, the brain's version of that is the neuron. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. Your laptop might have, 8 cores, maybe 16? Your brain has 86 billion of these biological processors. And just when you think that's mind-boggling, it gets even crazier. See, those 86 billion neurons don't just sit there. They talk to each other. They form connections called synapses. And how many connections are we talking about? Get ready for this. 100 trillion. To put that into perspective, there are more connections inside your skull than there are stars in our entire galaxy. That right there is the source of the brain's unbelievable power. Okay, so we've got the hardware covered. Incredible, right? But what about the software? What are the programs that run on all those neurons and synapses? Well, this is where we get into things like learning, memory, and how we adapt to everything life throws at us. So how does this learning software actually work? Well, it's this really elegant process. First, you get sensory input, data coming in from the outside world. Then, your brain starts processing and analyzing it. But here's the magic step, synaptic strengthening. The connections between the neurons that fired, they literally get stronger. Think of it like creating a path in a forest. The more you walk it, the clearer the path becomes. That path is the memory, locked in and stored away. And this process, this strengthening of paths, it isn't just happening in one little spot. It's happening all over, all at once. And that brings us to the whole shebang, the neural network. This is where the hardware and the software merge into the most powerful, most dynamic network we know of. So what's the secret sauce here? What makes this network so special? Well, it comes down to a few incredible features. For one, massive parallel processing. Your brain can juggle countless thoughts and processes all at the same time, while your computer is still mostly a one-thing-at-a-time machine. Then there's its superpower, neuroplasticity. This means your brain can physically rewire itself based on what you do and learn. It's not fixed. It's also amazingly fault-tolerant, meaning it can find workarounds if parts get damaged. And the kicker? It does all of this using less energy than a dim light bulb. It's just insanely efficient. Okay. So this whole computer analogy has been super helpful, right? It gets us pretty far. But it also has its limits. And this right here is where the story takes a turn. Because this is where we talk about how the brain is so much more than just a machine. People have been wrestling with this idea for centuries. Way back in the 1700s, a philosopher named Lemaitre put forward this really radical idea for the time. He said the human brain is just a machine, and that it alone accounts for everything we do. Now fast forward to today with AI getting smarter and smarter, and that question is more pressing than ever. Was he right? Are we just incredibly complicated machines? But is that really the full picture? I don't think so. There's something that separates us from even the most powerful AI, and it's all the stuff that makes us, human. Things like consciousness, that feeling of I am me. True creativity, the kind that comes from a spark of inspiration, not just mashing up data. There's emotional intelligence, and maybe most importantly, subjective experience, the simple feeling of what it's like to smell rain or to feel a moment of pure joy. As of now, you just can't write code for that. And that leads to this incredible conclusion. The brain isn't just a computer passively processing some external reality. No way. It is the architect of the reality you experience. It doesn't just see the world, it builds your world from scratch every single moment. Which leaves us with one last kind of mind-bending question to chew on. If our brain is the most powerful computer in the universe, then who or what is the one using it?